Yeah,
We need to incorporate. So I don't know what you.
Call the meeting to order with prayer. Heavenly Father, we pray that your teachings will guide us in this meeting and in our lives. Lord, please look after those who have fallen in defense of our country. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
I'll answer that for
I just sent her the fifth time I've sent the same email.
you. Not good?
And it's the right email
Roll
address.
call, wait.
Patrick Hackett.
Here.
Chad Longbones. Here. Joe McMonagle.
Here.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Here.
Vince Albanese.
Here.
Bob Mueller.
Here. Okay, next item is approval of minutes, December 9th, 2019 council meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of this December 9th council minute.
Christie's made a motion.
I'll second it.
Hey, I beat you to it.
Well, I
Come on
couldn't
now.
hear you.
Hang on.
You gotta speak up, man.
Patrick Hackett.
Yes.
Chad Longbones.
Yes.
Jim McMonagle.
Yes.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Vince Albanese.
Yes.
Bob Mueller.
Yes.
Fire authority report, Jeff.
Good evening. You should receive your year-end report. I'll go over the highlights of that real quickly and then if you have any questions. 1,411 emergency responses. That's up 5 from last year. Fire losses for the year, 363,950. The national average for a community our size is 476,000. That fire loss is down considerably from last year because we did lose a $1 million house. So, as far as fire goes, Crescent Springs and Villa Hills were nearly 50-50. 263 for Crescent Springs, 270 for Villa Hills, 17 for Kenton County. Some of those runs that are not included in there are the technical rescue runs. We did the ice rescue and swift water rescue for Boone, Kenton, Campbell, Owen, and Grant County. So those are also included in there. One of the highlights of last year is our ISO rating went to a class 2. Less than 4% of fire departments in the country are a 2 or better. And that's the same with the state of Kentucky. There's a graph in there that explains that. Number of ambulance calls, 347 for Crescent Springs, 541 for Villa Hills, 22 for the unincorporated county, and 78 for Bromley. There was an interesting chart in there about the Narcan use. 59% of our Narcan use went to Crescent Springs, 13% to Villa Hills, and 9% to Bromley. So that's, we know that the interstate's the problem with the Narcan.
I was just gonna ask that question.
Yeah, so generally what happens is somebody overdoses, they see something familiar like a McDonald's or a Speedway, they pull in there, and that's where we make contact with them. So, other than that, that's all I have. It's a pretty good year.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions to ask, and this is just kind of future planning. I noticed in your report, and you've done a very good job of maintaining that fire department with volunteers and part-times. But I see you have staffed 2 full-time ambulance people.
Right.
Is this going to be a trend that we're going to have to see?
So last year, we discussed with the increase of the sanctuary, with Sierra Drive or the reserves in Meadowwood, the new apartment complex, that we knew that within the next year, it's going to really ramp up. Our second ambulance was staffed with volunteers only.
Okay,
So we knew that we needed to have a paramedic on it.
okay.
So that's where that came from. As far as in the future, we will not go to a third ambulance.
Will you add more full-time people with your current existing operation because it's getting harder to find part-time people and volunteers?
So right now we have 0 full-time people.
Okay,
zero benefits, zero pension costs. Our model is that we can get by with the part-time.
okay.
We like to stick with that model. We are the exception to the area. We're still getting a good number of volunteers. So as long as that works for us, we'll continue to do that.
I noticed that when we were checking around, that your business model is different, which
Right.
is very beneficial to us.
Right.
Back to the paramedic, you said the second ambulance did not have a paramedic at times. Has that been changed?
Yes. So
Okay.
now, 24 hours a day, there are 2 EMTs, 2 paramedics.
Okay,
And the way that's working right now is we're cross-staffing everything. So not only are they EMT paramedics or EMT firefighters, they are firefighters. So if it comes in as a structure fire and we need to pull them off of the second ambulance, they go in the fire truck immediately.
okay,
That helps our runtime. Truck's out the door right away, and obviously, the quicker we get to the fire, the better. So
okay.
fire truck's going out immediately, volunteers are filling in the backup.
Curiosity on the last question is Bromley.
Yeah.
And eventually, are they going to be able, Ludlow, to cover? And-
Ludlow's covering it right now,
Okay,
so it's a done deal.
Did they get the paperwork worked out?
I signed a certificate of, emergency certificate of need. Basically said, we have no interest in covering Bromley anymore because they're not paying us. So the state took action on that and they took it.
I'd say, I want to make sure folks understand what it takes for you to get that ISO rating improved, using the business model you're using. I mean, that's a lot of training, that's a lot of preparation, or not, preparedness. You have to be prepared to do things.
Right, so things that go into that are, people frowned on us getting a ladder truck years ago, but that ladder truck really plays a big part. That a ladder has to be within 5 miles of every 3 stories or higher building. So that came to play into it. When I came to you guys and asked to replace fire hydrants that weren't up to date years ago, all that comes into play. The dispatch center, so very important parts of this big puzzle, and it really helps the insurance rating.
I have
Go ahead.
an issue. I've noticed some of the fire hydrants, you painted the tops of them different colors.
Right.
The paint's starting to chip off
Yep.
in the spring. And the
Yep.
paint.
So we've got a regular schedule where we go out and flow the fire hydrants first. Maintain them in the wintertime, we drain the water out of them, and then we go back in the spring, and the reason they're painted a certain color is how much water we get out of them.
Jeff, just real quick, you said the state took it over, or after you signed that, you told us, what do you mean by that?
So, in order to cover the city of Bromley, you have to have the ambulance license to do that. We held that license. So, what I did was contacted the state. You also have to have a certificate of need. So, if we were already covering it, then Ludlow couldn't come in and do it. And it's a lot like what the hospitals do with, you can't move in on somebody else's territory. We voluntarily gave up that, the city of Bromley. And the state, all they wanted was, this is what you want to do, and we'll take you off the ambulance license and put Ludlow on.
Okay, so Ludlow's fully responsible then?
Yeah.
Okay.
You said that we wouldn't be going to 3 ambulance. Can you speak more about that?
Sure. So, based on the population, and we're right around the 14,000 mark, once these new increases in subdivision come in, we'll still be within the 2 ambulance range. Really, after the new subdivisions, we're kind of landlocked, and we're not going to grow much more.
Okay.
And we have a great mutual aid system with Fort Mitchell and Erlanger. So if we, and this happens occasionally, is we'll get a 3rd or even 4th ambulance call. So if you see a Fort Mitchell ambulance over here or Erlanger, and we do the same for them. So it's, most cities our size are going to have 2 ambulances. So Fort Mitchell has 2, Erlanger has 2. Smaller cities like Ludlow and that just 1.
So I guess, yeah, even anticipating growth, we don't ever foresee really a 3rd ambulance being used. Okay.
Okay. Chief, on the topic of Narcan, in 2019, did you see a change with the opioid and
Yes.
the heroin going to another
So,
drug of choice?
Especially the second half of the year, it is considerably declined. We've been seeing a little bit more meth now taking the place of heroin, which does not require Narcan. We've also had some patients where 4 rounds of Narcan don't work on, so we don't know what kind of drug they're on, but we've seen a considerable decrease, especially since, and I spoke a little bit about that last month, the extra efforts of the police in certain areas have really helped out.
Because how effective is Narcan with fentanyl?
With fentanyl,
Yeah.
it's almost 100%. There are some strains of fentanyl it does not work on,
Okay.
but the funny question is when we've given somebody Narcan and they start to come around, well, I don't do heroin. Well, this only works on one
Right,
thing. So it's, we know they're lying to us and there's no covering it.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Have a good night.
Congratulations.
Okay, police report.
Checked on out of here, doesn't he?
Man, I'm telling you.
He's
All right,
on
we got any questions? Hey,
Roadrunner.
all right. Chief wanted me to apologize on his behalf. His wife had a medical procedure today. He did not foresee him not being able to be here tonight, but obviously he's not. So it
How's
was,
she doing?
She's doing okay. She's just laying in bed. It was a lumbar puncture that they did, a spinal tap, and there's several different doctors involved right now, and I think they're all just trying to get on the same game plan. So, you know, like I told him, and he always tells us family first, so
That's
he
good.
really wants to apologize if you guys have to listen to me. So,
Well, you tell them we're praying for them.
absolutely, sir. I appreciate it. You guys got the monthly and yearly report. I'm going to hit a couple highlights. If you guys, like Jeff, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. For the year, we took a total of 16,334 calls for service. We had, now that does include our traffic stops, special area checks, any calls for service actually called in, theft reports, cases, and everything like that. So it's a number that we kind of anticipated. It's nothing that's outside the realm of what we thought that we would be at. We had a 98.17% closure rate on all our cases, and this is being resolved by either a summons, cited, or arrested. So there's a couple cases out there that are still being investigated and still being looked at, some leads, but I can't put it in a closure rate because obviously it's not closed yet. We had 259 total crimes for the year, 291 total collisions for the year, with the winner of the collisions was Buttermilk Pike, with 137 of them. So over half of our collisions were Buttermilk Pike, and then the second runner-up closely there behind was Anderson. So we are still obviously working on those areas, and hopefully we'll see a decline in that. 31 of those collisions out of the 291 were injury collisions, with a total of 39 actual injuries. So passengers and such. We issued 1,309 citations, along with we've issued 1,119 written warnings. So you see approximately 2,600 or 2,400, in that realm between either citation or a verbal warning, or written warning was issued. It was funny, I was listening to Chief Went, and he said the second latter of the year with their Narcan usage went down substantially. Well, in June, if you remember, K9 Onyx got a certification, and he has had over 75 deployments in just 6 months of usage. And that is considerably higher than most of the other canines, other than Covington and their usage of canines. We are one of the highest used canines, not only within the city, but outside the city as well. But most of the usage is actually within the city usage.
How many times are you getting called out to other cities? Would you say out?
It varies by month, to be quite honest with you, but I would say maybe 3 or 4 times. There was one month, I think it was not last month, but November, we had like 5 or 6 usages in Covington. But then, we had 5 or 6 usages within Crescent Springs and Villa Hills. So it just really kind of depends. It varies by who's working on the other agencies as well, and what canine's available, what the call is, to be quite honest with you. Because there are calls where a canine's being requested, and we've said no. And because the reason that is let's say it's a traffic stop in Independence, and they're asking for a sniff. Well, there's federal law that's out there that says you have to not extend a traffic stop beyond a reasonable time to basically issue a citation. Well, us getting here from there to the southern part of the county, you're extending beyond a reasonable time of a traffic stop, and it's not it's not advantageous for us to go down there and violate someone's civil rights. I think you could all agree with that. So we make the conscious decision that, hey, we can't assist on the sniff on that. But if it's somebody that's fled from a traffic stop or a home invasion, burglary, or stabbing or something like that, obviously we're not worried about time constraints. We will offer up the usage of that if need be, if they ask for it. So, but again, like I said, and that he has had accounted for 26 felonies himself with just single felony charges, 26 people arrested for felonies. So, and that's within Crescent Springs and Villa Hills. So we've seen great amount of usage with the club, absolutely. The last page on our on the monthly, yearly, I should say, is our total hours of training for the year was 1,337 hours of training, and this includes our monthly videos that we do through KLC, whether it be simulators, range, policy tests that we do, we issue out, we review a policy and take policy tests as well. So that includes all of our training for the year. A couple highlights I wanted to point out that from just last month as well, some of the things that we're doing. The police department received the AAA Platinum Safety Award, which is the highest award that they offer through AAA, and that's for basically our traffic safety awareness, including like our Villa Hills Night Out, some of the community programs that we put on, using Facebook, using social media and things like that to alert people to some of the traffic issues going on with that. So this is the third year in a row that we've received platinum. So kind of proud of that. I'm the one who actually puts in the application for that. So yeah, I'll take my toot my own horn for that. Appreciate that. I'm gonna toot my own horn a little bit for that. Absolutely, I won't back. The annual Shop with a Cop was this past month. We were able to give 13 kids a wonderful opportunity. I'll be honest with you, it's more fun for me and probably the police officers and firefighters than it is for them. But it was a great time. We went down to Walmart. Walmart was a gracious host, and of course, Chief went in the fire department and assistance for everything like that. Thank you to everybody that played a part to it, and everybody that came out and celebrated with us. It was a fantastic time, and definitely had some memories for them in the Christmas. We had two officers, Officer Dwayne and Officer Bolton, were given the Governor's Award for DUI enforcement. So they were able to get their plaques from the state, or from the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety. The biggest event that we had, I think we had a great result, was Cram the Cruiser. It was a joint project between our agency and Fort Mitchell Police. We'd spent one weekend, 3 hours at the Kroger in Fort Mitchell and 3 hours up here in Rimke on 2 different Saturdays, and we filled, if anybody got a chance to see, we filled almost 2 garages of stuff. So thank you to all the citizens that donated these items. It really benefited the Madonna House and River Ridge Elementary. And we actually we got trucks and trailers and we took it over there and delivered and everything. It was awesome to see the generosity that our communities come together with. It was a great joint effort between us and Fort Mitchell as well. So really enjoyed that. And the last thing that I just want to make a notation is we are currently prepping for reaccreditation. This happens, it was every 5 years through state accreditation, now it's every 4 years. Basically where it keeps our accreditation standards that are set forth by the state and KLC. Okay, smooth. And they'll come in and inspect us. We're going for our 6th time in a row, which it'll be only one of 7 agencies in the state of Kentucky to have 6 continuous state accreditations. So it's a pretty high esteemed honor, and it's a lot of work, but I give Chief all the credit for putting in the hours and the effort that he's been doing to make sure our policies and procedures are up to date, and we'll have our inspection, and we'll hopefully have that done in the next few months.
Great. With use of canine, are you guys doing more asset forfeiture work?
Well, before the canine, yes, absolutely we are. And whatever we get, when we have somebody with trafficking or something like that, we are going for asset forfeiture. We'll take their cash, take their money, or whatever be the case. Then we have a separate account alignment for that once it's awarded back from the Commonwealth Terminal. So yes.
I got 2 quick questions.
Sure.
One I saw in here, in the safety officer being at River Ridge. Is there any plan in the future to do Madonna or
I do.
Joe?
I do know that I know the Chief has reached out to both of them, and being parochial schools, it is incumbent upon whether they want to spend that other percentage of money. We offered up that service and to them as well, and that's a decision that they have to make on their side. If they want to, because I know the county will put in, I believe, $30,000 or something along the lines of that for that officer. I don't know, don't quote me on that number.
So it is a shared cost?
It is a shared cost.
Okay.
So that's incumbent upon, just like River Ridge, it's through the Kenton County School Board.
Yep.
They pay a cost of it for us to have Officer Callura at River Ridge, and it would be the same. But we did offer that as well, that would be something that we could look into if they wanted to go down that route.
Just more, I'm curious for information. And cars, lease program, is that still going on?
The CARS lease program?
Yeah.
The 5 vehicles that we purchased when we were awarded the bid with the City of Crescent Springs, that is still purchasing. I believe we do a 3-year option, it's a 4-year option lease, I believe is what it is. And we purchased the vehicle on the 4th year for $1, I think is what it is.
Okay.
What that does essentially is, so let's just say each car costs $11,000 a year, so it's $55,000 a year.
Yep.
It's more capital money up front for any city to have. It's an allotment. The only negative downside to it is it's a loan, and it's
Yep.
not an outright ownership
Yes.
of it. So fiscally looking, when we're looking to buy 5 cars, if you look to buy 5 cars to outfit a car purchase right now, you're roughly right around $48,000. Let's call it $50,000. If you want to purchase 5 cars right now out of the budget, it's $250,000.
Which is a big expenditure.
It's a big expenditure. So,
Yes.
and that's the way that was written.
Now, as we go on and here, will that program keep going on, or you
They
don't
will
know?
still offer that program, but I think, speaking of way above my pay grade at this point, but I do have some working knowledge on it. I think that is something that the chief will come to council and to, Mr. Daly and everybody and the mayor. How does the city wish to proceed with purchasing cars? Because right now we have basically a 10-year, 100,000-mile span of that
Okay.
car. So we hope to get 10 years out of a vehicle or 100,000 miles. So it's kind of dependent upon, the longevity of the cars. Keep in mind that, the police cars take a beating. They're running a lot, they're going. And so that's the plan with that. It's usually either 8 to 10 years or 100,000 miles.
Okay.
So I know that he'll come back and it'll be however you guys choose to.
You can tell it's budget time.
How many cars do you have?
Right now we have 4. We have 14 vehicles.
And do you
One's being
know,
totaled out right now.
are any of them getting close to being in the 10-year realm?
Asking the right person, because I'm the fleet management guy. Our oldest car is we have 3 vehicles that are 2013s, and those are the sedan models. So if you see the sedans, those are the older vehicles. One of those is assigned to the school resource officer. Mind you, he drives from the office to the school and back, basically, and he does not take a take-home car because he lives in Ohio. The oldest car that we have has 75,000 miles on it, or there's right about there, which is 128, so it's 2013. The other 2013 has 71,000 miles, and then the other 2013 has 55,000 miles. So we're right on that area where our cars are, at 75,000 miles, hoping for a couple more years out of it. So you got to look to start replacing. I know Villa Hills is looking to go ahead and, as far as on Villa Hills side, start replacing a car a year. So they're going to go ahead and start and purchasing outright. So I believe that's the decision that Mr. Cahill is looking to go forward with that. That way it's owned outright.
So that could roll over in some fashion into our budget.
I don't.
As far as the
That
contract.
is kind of included, if I remember, in the contract. Some
Correct.
of that's all calculated in.
I do believe that it's when it comes to those 5 vehicles that somewhere, shape, or form
It is,
that has to.
yeah.
The 5 for the
But the
5
5 are
officers.
2018.
Yeah.
So the 5 are 2018 Ford utilities, and those are roughly right around 20,000 miles, which is expected. They're almost 2 years old. So I mean, it's right about where the mileage is.
Okay. Real quick, I just wanted
Sure.
to compliment your PD, looking at your year-end review statistics, when you look at citations issued of that 1309 versus your courtesy notices of 1119, that's a heck of a balance. And it also shows how proactive you guys are out and about in the neighborhood, because I commented to Mr. Mueller earlier, it seems like sometimes when I come into the city, it seems like there's 30 Villa Hills police cars all around. But no, great job, keep it up.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. I appreciate that. I'll still be here if anybody has further questions. I'm just kidding.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Jeff, I'm gonna come back to Jeff.
Okay, Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. Everyone should have a copy of the audit report for the year ended June 30th, 2019. Previously, I was able to meet with the Finance Committee of the city, and we had a good meeting in reviewing the financial statements and talking about some of the financial issues of the city. So in light of that, I'll direct you to page 1 of the audit report, which is the independent auditor's report. The first paragraph just indicates that we've audited financial statements of the city for the year ended June 30th, 2019. The second paragraph is labeled Management's Responsibility. It's just to emphasize that management of the city itself, is responsible for the financial statements. And the third paragraph is the auditor's responsibility. And our responsibility is to express opinions on these financial statements based on our audit, and that we conducted our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the U.S. and standards applicable to financial audits in what is called the government auditing standards. And at the very bottom of page 1, the one-sentence paragraph, we believe that the audit evidence that we've obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our audit opinions. And on the very top of page 3 is the opinion paragraph, which indicates that in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects of the financial position of the city, and where applicable, cash flows for the year that ended, and that's 6/30/2019, in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. This is what's called an unqualified opinion, which means there were no qualifications or exceptions to our opinion on your financial statements, and it is the highest level of opinion that a CPA firm renders on audited financial statements. So everything is good from that standpoint. On page 5 is the beginning of a section of the audit that's called Management's Discussion and Analysis. This is a representation of the city, and is intended to give the reader of the financial statements a little bit of an overview of the financial activity for the year. So under financial highlights, the second paragraph, the city's cash balances increased $398,000 compared to the prior year. And the fund balance also increased by $386,000. Intergovernmental revenues increased $90,000, and miscellaneous income increased by almost $200,000, of which that number included loan proceeds of $142,000. And those loan proceeds were the purchase of a public works truck, and you borrowed the money in order to make that purchase. Overall expenditures decreased $110,000, with the biggest decrease was from the reduction in police contract services and dispatch costs. I'll skip over to page 8. And about midway down the page are revenue numbers and expenditure numbers. This is the one place in the audit report where it compares the current year to the prior year. So your total revenues increased from $2.7 million to a little bit over $2.9 million. One of the categories that increased is the miscellaneous category. And as I mentioned just before, that number is up higher because that is where the $142,000 in loan proceeds for the truck. So a good part of that increase was from the loan proceeds. The category, the third line item down, licenses and permits, decreased from the prior year. And the reason is because in that prior year, 2018, there was an extraordinary receipt of license and permits that come through Kenton County. And we're not able to really tell exactly who that was or what caused that extra high receipt. but it was an extraordinary amount in 18. So 19 represents more in line with what your receipts in that category usually are. Under expenditures, the one thing that stands out is safety services decreased by about $400,000. So there was certainly a savings in that category. On page 9, and we're still in the MD&A, about midway down the page is the category called capital asset. Just want to mention that the city's capital assets increased $331,000 for the year. And that was due to street projects and the purchase of the vehicle in the Public Works Departments that we had talked about. And under debt, also repeating that you had the new $140,000 of debt, and that increased in that category. And that, again, that was for the purchase of the Public Works vehicle. I'll look at just 2 more pages with you real quickly. Page 13 is the balance sheet of the city. That's a presentation of the city's assets and liabilities at year end, and it does not include fixed assets. It does not include the long-term debt. So this is more current assets and current liabilities. So your assets, the very right-hand column under total governmental funds, you had cash at the end of the year of $2,076,000, and the other significant number are prepaids of $339,000, and that can be where you paid your insurance in the month of June for the next year. That becomes a prepaid expense. So your total assets were $2,434,000. In the liability section, you typically do not have a large amount of current liabilities. Accounts payable and accrued liabilities are the 2 categories in total $29,000. So the total assets minus the liabilities gives you a fund balance of $2,396,000. So that is the difference between the assets and liabilities. On page 14 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. And total revenues were $2,921,000. Total expenditures were $2,534,000. I'm in the right-hand column, giving you an excess for the year of revenues over expenditures of $386,000, thus increasing that fund balance number to the $2,396,000, which we looked at the previous statement. So you had a good year from a fiscal standpoint. You operated within your budget. Your revenues were more than your expenditures, and so that's always a good thing. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions if you have any. If you do have any questions that come up at a later time, they can let me know that, and we can try to provide an answer to you.
Looks like no questions.
Nope.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Well, we did have a very good finance committee meeting, so
Yes.
we talked about a lot of things there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next item is Public Works. Dewey, welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate the cards that everybody sent me. I'm doing pretty good. You see me here. We took down all the Christmas tree, wreaths, decorations, and put them up for the winter. We've got the bathrooms and the park shut down for the winter. Everything's winterized. Keeping the drains clean. We're picking up recycled Christmas trees and taking them down to Park and Ride. January 15th will be the last day. They'll be picking them up and grinding them up. We're taking them up to the park and putting them on the paths, using them for mulch on the paths. And the trucks and the equipment and all the salt's in good shape. That's all I got.
And we haven't used much salt so
I
far.
know. Keep it that way.
Good.
Ain't that the truth?
What are they doing with the street lights on Rosewood? The one by,
One of them got knocked down the other day by the water department. We called
the
it
one
in,
by,
Squire Hill.
yeah, I
We
just
called,
noticed
we
that.
called it in again today. I had them call it, then we went
It's
back
still
down
lit.
there. So we called it again. The guy was backing, they don't know what he was doing. He was trying to back a trailer around there and he hit the light and knocked it down.
Is that one of my guys?
I don't think it was one of yours.
Yeah, that's how they are.
You had a point the other day while I was gone about street cleaning.
Yeah,
I take care of that, and I'll get a spring cleaning and a fall cleaning set up, and we'll see if we can get that done this year.
okay.
A lot of the places around here don't want to really do it. They're sort of backing off and going to other cities and stuff. So I'll get a hold of contract sweepers and see if I can get something going with them. We'll get
Florence
street
did it for years, Bart.
sweeping. Yeah,
They don't want to do it
and they were sort of
anymore.
backing off, like they don't want to do it. And I talked to Pat, he sort of got the same thing from them, that they don't want to do it. So I'll call contract sweepers and we'll get it done.
Okay,
All
great.
right.
Means it.
Okay, is that it, Dewey?
That's it.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right. City Administrator report, Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few talking points for tonight's meeting. The first thing you'll see on your report is regarding the Buttermilk LED light project. I was able to pull together a meeting on December 17th with District 6 and Duke Energy officials. The meeting actually went very well. The main thing that came from the meeting was trying to get all three players at the same table to discuss why the delays were taking place and what do we need to do moving forward. The biggest thing that we found out from the meeting had to do around lighting permits that were needed by Duke Energy officials in order to move forward with the LED lights on Buttermilk Pike. KYTC educated them and guided them, and I think after walking away from this meeting that we are all on the same page, and this thing is going to finally happen. It was mentioned in the meeting, possibly May of 2020. However, as we all know with projects, that can change, and there is potential that obviously it could go into the new budget cycle. Patrick raised a very good question recently regarding this project and financing, and April confirmed it in one of her emails regarding the fact that council and the mayor a few years back decided that we were going to utilize the Duke franchise fee for this project, which is around $125,000. So moving forward, going in the right direction.
I have a question for you, please,
Go ahead.
before you move forward. On Buttermilk, are they going to replace all of these poles out here with new poles?
Yes.
Okay, somewhere along the line, we're going to have to be notified
Mhm.
so that we can take the banners and the stuff off the
Yes.
poles ahead of time, because a lot of time they take them down, they don't get them back.
Yes, and that was
If they-
brought
if
up,
they
actually. I'm
notify
glad you reminded me.
So that we can get a couple days on them to take them all down before they get started, that'd be a big help.
Okay,
Thank
I'll
you.
get with you. I'll stay on top of
All
it.
right, thanks.
Moving on to the next thing is the Meadowwood condo project. Last week on January 9th, Mayor Hartfeld and myself sat down with Mr. Burling to review the final plans for this project itself. This is before he obviously presents it to BDS for the application process. If you would like to have a comparison of what's going to be built, there was a project done by Fisher Homes off of 3L in Covington regarding some of the building structures that they're going to be putting in Crescent Springs. I just wanted to show everyone.
You want me to hold that?
Yeah. And I apologize, audience, I'm going to have my back to you for a second just to be able to present to the mayor and the council members. So the other day when we sat down, we went over the plans, the final plans of what's going to take place. And basically, there's going to be a first phase, which is going to be these three buildings right here that are highlighted. And with that, They're gonna have a pool that's gonna be put in and a clubhouse that's gonna be put in with the first phase. The entry into this location is gonna be off of, and if I say the street wrong, Woodside.
With you.
Wood Hill, thank you, Mayor. It's gonna be off of Wood Hill going back into this complex. The first thing that needs to happen is obviously the application process with PDS. If that goes smoothly, they could start the clearing out process maybe in May or June of 2020. And that all gets into obviously weather, and it also gets into the application process if that all goes through smoothly. Sitting down with Mr. Bowling, they have a real neat setup of how this complex is gonna lay out. And I did some notes for you that are kind of talking points that came from that meeting the other day. This is gonna be 175 units. Thank you, Sergeant. Oh, you're a good man. It's gonna be 175
And a
units.
light.
As I said, in the first phase, 2020 and 2021, it's gonna be 3 buildings, full clubhouse. Sales will not include rental, which is a positive for the community, especially moving forward. Start excavation May, June of 20, and they're looking at a 10-month prep build-out time for these 3 initial buildings. Move-in possible late spring 2021. That's why they want to have the pool ready for whoever moves into these 3 buildings in 2021, that they have that pool ready for them in 2021. Condos will go pricing-wise anywhere from 130 up to 275,000. And that kind of varies obviously on bedrooms. Some of them have 3 bedrooms, and they obviously go down from there. So it's a really positive project. I know Erpenbeck and Burling are very excited, especially about this location. On top of the Amazon project that's going in out at the airport in Burlington, one of the things they've talked about is looking for housing, whether it be residential or whether it be condos. So this ultimately could be a very win-win for the city and the community. And they're referring to these condos as very upscale. And unless April took them, and she did.
So they're like apartment-style buildings, right? Like three stories? I
Yes,
think that's
ma'am.
what's down Tuscany.
Yes.
There's no townhouses.
No.
It's fight night. Okay, I've got my blurb on the camera finally.
If you want to pass that around, it's something like this that will be coming around. You remind me of that commercial where the dad pulls up to his son and he's doing that flipping of the sign, and the son says, "Dad, 15 minutes, I'll be on break." Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanna.
The only other thing I'll input here on the financial part.
From now on.
Officer Van, no, damn. Oh, there goes my name.
Oh, be quiet.
That is nothing.
Is that all going to be private back there?
Can we call it Sergeant Van?
We have
Yes.
comment on
Yes.
freeways.
Aren't they supposed to have public streets? It's the street standards, right?
Right.
Okay.
And here's a bigger picture if you want to hand these around, kind of gives you a bigger idea.
I'll send to the council, to the rest of the council, the revenue stream is 30 million, projected 65,000 in new taxes.
On the second page, moving on, city business. In 2020, we're going to be moving to a new bank for 2020, and we're in that process right now currently. We're going to be doing our banking business with Heritage Bank. As I mentioned in here on a bullet point, the transition has begun. Should take about 2 to 3 months to handle the transition. And Heritage is a family-run business that's been around for decades in the Northern Kentucky.
What was the savings on that one? Was there savings on that?
You know, I haven't gotten that kind of figure yet. There was obviously paperwork they've sent over to us as far as things that will be included in what's called the package. And I think you referred to it as just a simple, when Patrick asked that question to you in an email regarding, you know, did they offer us the same things they talked to us about in the meeting, which they did.
It's
With-
it's comparable, there's the interest rate's just a little bit better.
And I want to say, was it mentioned
$8,000
$8,000 savings?
8,000 increase in
Possibly,
savings
yeah, right
on an
around there.
annualized basis right now.
But I would like to thank BB&T for their service and professionalism over the years that they've shown in our city.
Aren't they giving us free checks to begin with and things like that?
Yes.
Deposit slips.
That's probably Crescent Springs.
Moving on, the next thing, the Beechwood Road Sidewalk Project. This was a project that was being discussed with Fort Mitchell and ourselves. I commented on this way back in May or back in June. There was a grant that we put in for. We did not get it in 2018. We were going to put back in for it for 2019. However, the consensus when we left that meeting with Dewey and Mayor Hartfield and myself with Fort Mitchell was that we were going to wait for the engineer to come back with a report or his findings. He hasn't fully come back with that report, but there is some concerns that we have with one of the hillsides in that area that needs to be obviously studied and looked at before we move any further. So now, we've decided that we're going to table this discussion for now. And next week I'll be in Frankfurt with all the Kenton County City Administrators. The meeting's on January 22nd. This is my first time going to this event. Basically, it's where you sit down. It's from 8 to 5. You sit down with local legislators down in Frankfurt, and you discuss current and future topics that are going to be taking place for the Northern Kentucky cities. A few discussion points, and I listed them. Number one there is pension reform. Number two is a road funding formula. There's a lot of talk and discussion of devising a new formula for that process. Three is blighted, deteriorated, and vacant properties. The thought out there is trying to give the cities the tools and the ability to handle these kind of situations easier instead of it being so difficult and so long drawn out. And lastly, something you're starting to see with a lot of cities, counties, and states is the revenue diversification. And obviously that's where they're looking at ideas of how can we invest our money for our cities or counties or states to make money in that way. And lastly, Dewey covered that. And Dewey, it's good to have you back, sir. Good to see you back. And that's all I have. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them for you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Mayor's report, I don't have anything. Old business,
We're still updating the personnel policy manual. We got an email last week from KLC that suggested the 10 issues that they thought cities should take a look at and consider for putting in their manuals. Some of them don't pertain to us because we don't have any hazardous duty employees, but April and I'll be taking a look at that and incorporating it. I think we got one phone call back and you had another one to make. We're pretty much on target to
Yeah,
get
it's
this done soon.
resolved.
Okay.
Thank you.
okay, next item, new business. Municipal order 2020-1, appointing Christie Arlinghouse to the Finance Committee.
Order 2020-1, a municipal order of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, amending designation of Finance Committee of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, be it ordered by the mayor and the legislative body of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky as follows. Section 1. The Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky hereby amends Municipal Order 2019-11 to add Christie Arlinghouse to Finance Committee. Section 2, the committee appointment herein
approved and/or made shall be for the year 2020 for the purpose of advising council in the operation of its legislative duties. Official action on behalf of the city can only be taken by city council as a whole. Nothing in this municipal order changes other sections of Municipal Order 2019-11 unless so specifically stated. Neither committees nor individual committee members may act on behalf of the city without council approval.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
Make a motion
Pat has made a motion.
on 2020-1 approval?
I'll second it.
Vince second.
Patrick Hackett,
Yes.
Chad Longbonds, Jim McMonagall,
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse,
Abstain.
Vince Albanese,
Yes.
Bob Mueller.
I don't think I should vote for myself, Bob.
You're right.
Yes.
Even though I think I'm a candidate.
I noticed that you're across the room.
Passes.
You're
I
safe.
mean, I
5-0.
have a budget of $130 million.
Next item is second reading of ordinance 2019-12, amending the text of the MLU 2, MC, and NSC zones.
Ordinance number 2019-12, an ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, amending the text of the Crescent Springs zoning ordinance regarding the MLU 2 and MC zones to allow nutritional or herbal supplemental sales as a permitted use, and allowing individual businesses within a shopping complex within the NSC and MC zones to each have a wall sign. Whereas the city has made application through the Kent County Planning Commission to amend the text amendment to the zoning ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky to 1, allow nutritional or herbal supplemental sales as an additional permitted use within the MLU 2 and MC zones, and 2, allow individual businesses within a shopping complex within the NSC and MC zones to each have a wall sign. And whereas the Kenton County Planning Commission adopted the text amendment authorizing these uses in PC 1910-0005. And whereas the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky has reviewed the report of the KCPC and determined that nutritional or herbal supplemental sales should be allowed as a permitted use within the MLU 2 and MC zones. And further, that individual businesses within a shopping complex within the NSC and MC zones shall each be allowed a wall sign. Now therefore be it ordained by the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that the Crescent Springs zoning ordinance is hereby amended in its text to 1, allow nutritional or herbal supplemental sales as a permitted use within the MLU 2 and MC zones, and 2, allow individual businesses within a shopping complex within the NSC and MC zones to each have a wall sign.
Questions or comments? Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept ordinance 2019-12.
Vince made a motion. Need a second?
I'll second.
Christie second.
Patrick Hackett,
Yes.
Chad Longbonds, Jim McMonagall,
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Vince Albanese,
Yes.
Bob Mueller.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Next item is second reading of ordinance 2019-13, amending the city's tax ordinance.
Ordinance number 2019-13, an ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, amending the city's tax ordinances to amend the due date for the payment of taxes and to clarify the amounts to be paid for delinquent taxes. Be it ordained by the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, Section 1. Ordinance 1987-18 in Section 95.05 of the Crescent Springs Code is hereby amended to reflect that the tax imposed shall become due and payable on October 1st of each calendar year and shall be declared and marked delinquent if unpaid by October 31st of each calendar year. Section 2. Ordinance 1987-18 is hereby amended, and Section 95.06 of the Crescent Springs Code is hereby amended to reflect that when a tax bill becomes delinquent, each tax bill shall be endorsed by the city clerk on November 1st of each calendar year as delinquent, and the city clerk shall thereupon proceed to attach to each delinquent tax bill a one-time penalty of 10%, and interest thereafter shall accrue at the rate of 1% per month or 12% per annum from the date each tax bill shall have become delinquent until paid. Section 3, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith are to the extent of such conflict hereby repealed. This ordinance shall become effective from its passage and publication according to law.
Questions or comments?
What is the current tax bill? I mean, what are the due dates right now? What's the due dates on the tax bill right now?
This is strictly cleanup.
Okay.
There are indexed ordinances.
Okay.
Everything was set forth, Mike, in the ordinances yearly, but when American Legal indexes our ordinance for us, they're going off the 1987 for all year, or, for,
I've heard this happening in the past with people, when tax bills go out, what happens to where if somebody that gets lost in the mail or whatnot, they don't pay it by the due date? How does the city handle that, county handle that?
It is the taxpayer's responsibility
Okay.
to know their tax
Commission.
and to know that it's due.
Okay. I didn't know where
And believe me, I hear it all the time,
Okay.
particularly real estate matters involved, outside the city, county tax bills particularly. They get mailed to a number of places, and you have to know it's there every year.
All right.
Okay.
Is there any cap to, like, how far we can build it out?
12 months.
And then, but does it just continue the following year?
Yes, it gains interest each and every month, accrues interest each and every month until paid. There is a statute of limitations on the books where it no longer becomes enforceable.
Okay.
Which, it was 10 years, but I think it's been shortened. Go back and double check that.
Okay. Need a motion?
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2019-13.
I'll second that.
Pat's made the motion, Vince is second.
Patrick Hackett,
Yes.
Chad Longbonds,
Yes.
Jim McMonigal,
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Vince Albanese.
Yes.
Bob Mueller.
Yes.
Okay. Finance meeting is January 15th. Economic development meeting will be on January 22nd. And our next caucus meeting will be January 27th. The students have any questions or statements they would like to make? You good?
Can we ask you some questions?
I have one question. The condos that are being built, the ones that you had your.
Why don't you step up to the mic,
Yeah.
please?
I have my name by now.
Oh, no, we need it again.
Yeah.
I'm Carol McGowan, 2264 Ed Dairy Drive. Feel like I'm- Yeah, I
Right
feel
above
like
me.
I'm checking in at a jail or something. Anyway, the new condos that are being built that you had on display here,
Yes.
and they spoke of will be in public, are the roads public or private? Is the main roads going to be serviced by the city or
Yes.
serviced by the condo association?
By the city.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Are they going to be serviced by the city, or are they just being built to the standards?
They're
I'm sorry, it is the private, it is.
Yeah.
Well, I thought they're
Yeah,
building
the city's
building
not
the
going to be
condominium.
responsible.
No, sorry,
Yeah,
yes.
that,
Okay.
They're built to
that,
the city specifications, in
Okay.
case it's
Yeah,
somewhere
we
we
are-
want to turn them over, but the city will not be taking it.
yeah, we're not taking on that.
Okay.
I handled it that way, I just wanted to make sure everybody was on their toes. Especially Vince.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm gonna,
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
I make a motion.
Vince made a motion to adjourn.
Second?
We have
I
one
heard
second
something
over
down
here.
here.
Go over there.
Oh, Chad
Chad.
beat you, Pat.
No, I know. He's finally, he's
All in
awake.
favor?
All right.
Meeting's adjourned.